Welcome to this very special episode of the SME Soup podcast. Joining me today is Vishal Shah, the Managing Director of Business Banking here at Rakbank. Vishal is a leader who spends as much time on SMEs, AI and embedded finance as he does on his golf swing. Vishal brings over 25 years of experience across SME, commercial and retail banking, with leadership roles spanning Asia and the Middle East at institutions including Standard Chartered, Tcom Bank and GXS Bank. At GXS, he built and scaled the SME business across Singapore and Malaysia, leveraging partnerships, data and AI, and led the acquisition and integration of Validus Capital. A passionate advocate for using technology to help businesses grow smarter and faster, and a father of two, we welcome Vishal to the episode. Vishal, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So we're filming this in May. We're obviously in unprecedented times. How do you think the SME market is handling the current situation?
So look, I think these are unprecedented times. Obviously, the crisis is still evolving and emerging. I would take it in three parts. First is the SMEs who were serving, especially say in Dubai, and very much linked into the travel and tourism industry, have obviously seen significant impact in terms of sharp fall in, if you're a rent-a-car business, from the peaks of what you saw in January, February, you've obviously seen the trough now. Having said that, the SMEs were serving the resident population have shown a lot more resilience. And especially with distance learning, which was implemented, and now, back to school. Yes, we have a bit of a stop-start happening, but we see the demand for SMEs who are serving resident population certainly improve. And the B2B businesses who are obviously serving, imports and exports have seen disruption in their supply chain. Having said that, over the last 2 months or so, since when the conflict has started, many of them have adjusted their supply chains. So if the port was shipment was, say, in Dubai, Jebel Ali, now they would adjust into, say, Fujairah, or even go down to the Red Sea in Jeddah. So we've seen that. So by and large, I would say we see pretty strong resilience.
So good. I mean, in turbulent times, obviously there are areas where we need resilience and businesses are accommodating to that. But there's also areas where there are opportunities to be sought, right? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. What we are seeing is, the theme which has started, in fact, a few years ago, which is make it in the Emirates. The crisis is kind of accelerating that theme. Say 20 years ago in the UAE, you would hardly see any food and beverage being manufactured, produced, I should say, here. But now you see a lot of that. So and just recently, yesterday, we were quite well represented in Abu Dhabi with Make It in the Emirates convention, which has been going on for the entire week. And His Highness Mohammed bin Zayed, along with his entire team, were also there.
Mm-hmm.
So we can see that a large part of the businesses, while there are challenging times, at the same time, the theme which came out very, very strongly is make it in the Emirates, right? And different diverse industries were represented, right? From food and agricultural products to defense, to infrastructure, obviously, the good old oil and gas. So in each of these, we now see that transition that, UAE not just being a trade hub, and from a manufacturing perspective, more on oil and gas, but a number of industries. So that with the crisis is getting more accelerated. Second, food security is a very, very big theme and big part. So again, as part of Make It in the Emirates, so we see that as the opportunity. And third, obviously, physical infrastructure is clearly something we see huge demand for. Right, from construction, but also the infrastructure around pipes, and with the supply chains getting disrupted, there's a lot of rebuild which is also required. So these are the opportunities in terms of, the areas where we see immediate demand, but also the broader theme and, which is Make It in the Emirates, is something we are seeing. And as a bank, we obviously want to be very much focused and committed to that journey the
Of
country
course.
is taking.
Of course, of course. So obviously, businesses are navigating this environment, and as a business, you need to manage your cash flows accordingly. How are we seeing businesses reacting to the demands on their business when it comes to a cash flow perspective, and what types of things are we doing to support them?
So again, linking to the industries which got impacted, obviously for industries which were very heavily reliant on travel and tourism, new cash generation got impacted, in some cases quite significantly. Having said that, these are traditionally cash rich industries. So what we do see for the more established travel and tourism operators, they had enough cash buffers to at least last minimum 3, but sometimes even more than a year.
Sure.
Secondly, behind the business, there's obviously the owner, the promoter, the family. And a lot of the families, are rooted in the UAE and they have investments in the UAE, which could be liquid or also in the form of property. So what we have seen is they bringing their personal wealth, personal investments into the business to ride through some of the challenges on new cash generation. Yeah. So that's for the impacted sectors. For the less impacted sectors, where the paymasters are typically large conglomerates, GREs, as we would call them in the UAE, the flow of cash continues. So we don't see much of a challenge there. And I think by and large, the measures which have been taken by CB UAE, as well as the resilience of the banking system, has ensured that UAE remains very, very strong when it comes to capital adequacy from banks as well as the liquidity. And a lot of measures have been taken by CB UAE to ensure liquidity flows to the banks as and when they need it.
And I think that's showing dividend, right? I think the natural assumption from a crisis like this is that there's an assumption that there will be a run on the banks, right? Or customers would leave, people would go, businesses would shut down. We haven't seen that.
No, absolutely. So I think that was quite that's a very important point, that when the crisis emerged, for the first couple of days, yes, we saw a certain where for clients who had an optionality to take money, and this was more on the high net worth segment. But now we see money coming back, and again, it's the most important thing is the businesses are rooted in UAE. They believe in the long term success of the country. Yeah, so I think it's just fascinating to see the resilience, even in our bank, in our portfolios, and in turn, which is our clients.
No, it's a really interesting and positive time, I'd say, to be working in this industry. I guess from our perspective, our businesses are managing this, they're trying to move forward. What types of things are we as a bank doing to support those businesses?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I think firstly, Rakbank has been the bank which has supported SMEs through thick and thin. Prior to this crisis, be it COVID, be it the 2014 to 2016 SME mid corporate sort of challenges, and then going back to 2007, 2008, which was the global financial crisis, and the following of impact which happened in the UAE. So Rakbank has been committed to providing credit and providing fantastic digital experiences to the SME clients. Could be a micro business which is just set up. The person could be new to UAE, and the business is new to somebody who's been living in UAE, was a salaried individual, and now setting up a new business. So I think that's the first point I want to make, that the commitment to SMEs is not something which is relatively new. It has been there since the last 50 years. The bank has been in presence. Uh, the second part, I would say, on how are we supporting and enabling SMEs during these periods. Almost every organization, financial institution would support SMEs in the good times, but I think the real challenge comes, and that's where relationship matters, is that are you supporting them through the cycle, the good and the bad? So for us, right from micro all the way to corporates, we continue to provide credit. Our hero offering, which we call Rack Business Loan, continues to perform very strongly. And in fact, what we've done is we've doubled down on a lot of our existing clients who actually need even incremental limits. So we continue that, number one. Number two, with the CB UAE resilience package, we've obviously leveraged on that scheme where we have provided deferrals, which is up to 6 months, uh, for businesses who are impacted from a cash flow perspective. At the same time, what we also see is that a lot of SMEs may have assets in their individual name or in the company name, and they may want to cash them out, not necessarily sell, given, obviously the
Of
challenges
course, some
with
people want to
liquidity.
stay here, right?
Exactly. So to provide a line of credit against that. And obviously, we are a strong trade and working capital bank. So from a solution perspective, we pretty much full suite, unsecured, partially secured, secured. From segment perspective, right from a new business all the way to corporates. And I think, again, just want to call out the CB UAE resilience package is absolutely critical to continue the flow of credit, but also provide, the deferrals in terms of existing loan obligations, and should they need some time to repay that, given new cash generation got impacted, for the impacted sectors and impacted clients.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important that we're there for our customers when it comes to products in terms of cash flow and alleviating those concerns as well. But I think one thing I'm particularly proud of is that we're a digital bank with a human touch, right?
Absolutely.
So all of our systems have been online all the way through. We're there to support our customers, and obviously we're pushing the levels of digital innovation and technology, but we're also very much there from a human perspective. Can you talk to us about how you see the relationship management business in times like this?
Yeah, so I think, going back to our brand promise, digital with a human touch. And then within that, if, we say we are open for business. So what are the proof points? I think there are enough proof points in the good times, but the challenging times, I would say, our in our client base, almost all our clients are digitally active. We are digital anywhere and everywhere, but we are human when it matters. So a proof point of that would be that in these challenging times, if they need, to ease their cash flow and they are looking for a deferral, they can apply online. But at the same time, if they want to talk to a relationship manager, we are available. That's one example. The second example is that for high value clients with high value of transactions, if they want, obviously we've got online FX available for them as part of their inbound or outbound remittance. But should they want to talk to someone, especially for large tickets, we are available. Obviously we've got our specialists in treasury who are very much available. So these are examples that we are digital pretty much anywhere and everywhere, but we are also human when it really matters.
And it's quite rare to see that now, right? Because you see banks going in either one of the directions, right? They're either going fully automated, fully digital, can't speak to a human. And in times like this, that's a particular problem. Or they're saying, look, we wanted this to be an entirely relationship-based business.
Yeah, what I would say is, having that, striking that balance, that yes, for everyday banking, with wow experiences, we want to be digital. But the minute they, we're talking about value added solutions, or we are talking about, areas where they need advice, a client needs advice, digital will get us to a particular place, but after a while, they do want that relationship and, more importantly, that advice for the value added service. So, what we aim to be is that bank which is digital with the with a human touch, with an omni-channel experience. That you could be on our digital online or mobile platform or click to chat. You get the same experience when you're talking to a relationship manager or speaking to a contact center or walking into a branch. So that's what we really aim to be, digital with a human touch, and very importantly, the omni-channel experience is consistent, as opposed to being fantastic on one channel and not on the other.
Yeah, and it's a very unique and a very innovative way of thinking about it. Okay, so in the SME market, SMEs are particularly cash rich in the UAE. So only, two out of 10 businesses actually need to borrow. So how are we optimizing for those customers? How are we helping them?
So first and foremost is any SME, or in fact any business or individual placing money with a bank. What is most paramount is trust. So trust in the institution where they're holding the money, and obviously in the country. Second is the bank or the financial institution always on? Can I access the funds when I need it? Can I view them when I need it? Can I make the transfers when I need it? So for us, firstly, when we say always on for business, again, going back to the omni channel, you want online, web, talk to an agent, speak to your relationship manager, walk into the branch. We are always on. That's most important. Secondly, we want to bring value to our clients. And how are we bringing value to our cash rich clients, as well as cash rich who are actively transacting with us? So, first, we've got a campaign which has been very, very successful. And looking at the success, we might look at continuing that. So, the current campaign around the theme that we are open for business is we are offering 2% interest per annum for our existing clients who consolidate their banking relationship with us. In other words, bring new money into their accounts, as well as for our new clients with new money. So we are offering 2% interest on
Amazing.
their dirham as well as US dollar deposits. That's the first. Second, for domestic fund transfers, irrespective of how many fund transfers they make, we charge them zero fees.
Yeah.
So this is a campaign.
So important. Right?
Yeah, which is going on. So this is how we are bringing value to them. So you could have 50 employees, 100 employees, 50 supplier payments in the month. We don't charge fees. Third, UAE being obviously a trade hub for both for import and export. When they convert from A currency to B currency, we obviously offer competitive FX rates. But again, with the campaign which is currently going on, we're giving unlimited cashback in all currency pairs other than obviously dirham to US dollar, which is pegged. So these are the additional proof points on how we are always on, but also bringing value to our cash-rich clients.
Amazing. So we're obviously a full suite bank. We've got, products to cover every, from a small business all the way up to corporate. And that's something I think that we're very proud of. Our systems are always on. We're always open for business. We're a front runner when it comes to the digital side. What types of innovations, either in product or on the technical side, do you see coming in the SME market?
So I would take it in two parts. First is just on the experience. So obviously, our mobile bank as well as web banking has been consistently rated extremely, extremely well.
Thank you.
And obviously, Thomas, who's in charge of running these platforms for us. Having said that, we want to be not just the best in UAE for business, but pretty much in the region. And then eventually my aim is to be the best SME digital bank with a human touch, having the human ability when it matters across the globe. So that's something we will continue to invest in and improve our experiences on already experiences which are actually market leading. So that it really positions us as the leader, not just in the country, but in the region and beyond. At the same time, we want to be very nimble and agile. So as new technologies come in, and AI is obviously an evolving space, a lot of the use cases for most organizations are around how are we leveraging AI to improve productivity for the organization. What me and my team, including Thomas and our team, what we are really looking at is that how can we improve that experience for our clients? That's one. The second is how can we embed AI so that they can improve and drive their business, grow their business. So these are, so from a proposition perspective, what I would look at eventually is that not just helping SMEs for banking and financial services, but helping SMEs go beyond financial services as well, and how they may apply AI to drive productivity, grow sales. So that's another use case.
And I certainly think that we're moving in the right direction there. I think it's all too easy, right, to launch and deploy a chatbot, right? But if you speak to our clients, nobody's ever asked for a chatbot, which is why I think we're really onto something with the digital, with the human touch.
Absolutely.
Providing digital services that are automated, are straight through, allow convenience for customers wherever they are, whenever they want to do that service. But also when they need support, they get through to a human, right? Because at the moment, I think that is the best deployment of that kind of technology. I think also that the UAE is very, very innovative. So, the government entities that support us are also pushing for innovation in the banking sector. Can you talk a little bit about what types of initiatives the government are working with us on?
Absolutely. I mean, UAE has obviously been at the forefront, and what we're really looking forward to is out of the many initiatives, first is open finance. So with open finance, and the second being on eKYC, let me double click into both of them. So first is around open finance. Uh, with that, based on the user, in this case the SME, providing consent
Yes,
to
of
their
course.
existing
And very
financial
important.
services provider, exactly, and obviously data protection, extremely important. So everything we do and we will do is obviously subject to user consent. We could bring them that experience, which right from consolidating their banking relationship to even viewing their banking relationship, uh, to in addition to that, rather than asking for additional information subject to user consent, we already would have access to their other relationships, such as bank accounts or balances in other banks. We've got a fantastic bureau here, both on the corporate and the individual.
Yes.
So one of the biggest pain points for SMEs has been access to finance. Second is the banks and financial institutions ask for too much information.
Yes. Even
So-
today.
Even today, exactly. So with open finance, we're getting geared up to further improve our experience, especially when they need credit, number one. Number two, uh, relationship view, not just of the business they have with Rakbank, but across the other banks and financial institutions. And third is payments. Payments can become a lot more seamless, a lot more easy, which obviously when they are on digital channels, they obviously are. But I think with open finance, the experience would be much faster. And then that's where I would bring in obviously the initiative around eKYC. An SME who wants to be multi-banked, and especially micro businesses when they move into the SME and commercial, they want to be multi-banked to diversify their risks as well. Every bank needs to onboard them, and we ask for the same information from the SME again and again.
In different journeys, in different styles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's where, again, with eKYC and open finance, we would take away a lot of that pain the SME has to deal with multiple banks, as opposed to they're already now certified and approved from a KYC perspective as per CBUA regulatory requirements. So I think these experiences will help SMEs to also improve their productivity when they're dealing with banks.
Yeah. And I think it will provide a lot of headspace for banks, right? So a lot of energy within a bank currently in the UAE, and it's not just us, it's our partners and other banks as well, is spent on, bringing a customer on board, checking the documents, checking that they're, compliant and all that kind of stuff, and then putting them into the system. I think if that was automated, if that was centralized, if that was taken outside of the bank's, main concentration path, then it allows us much more brain room to go, how do I build new innovative products? How do I work on sustainability? How do I do all of these things that you see in perhaps more advanced markets, such as Singapore, where you've seen that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Vishal, you join us with a significant amount of business banking experience in different markets, but you've quite uniquely got a significant amount of fintech and digital experience as well. Talk to us about your journey there and how you managed to span both worlds.
Yeah, so very interesting. I started my banking career in the UAE being a relationship manager for one of the international banks. And that's where, relationship management, understanding trade, uh, foreign exchange, etc., are the learnings. Fast forward to my most recent experience before I joined Rakbank was being part of Grab and Singtel's joint venture based in Singapore, where we launched three banks uh, across Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And I would say launching a bank from scratch with new technology and not having any clients was also a great experience. Uh, so the learnings I would really say is that uh, when digital services work, they work brilliantly. But there are many a times companies would want advice. Number one. Number two, they may want products and solutions which a digital bank may not have yet built. And third, on the individual side, as well as businesses who are very, very cash rich, after they grow at a particular size in terms of wealth or cash, they need that personal touch. And I think those are the learnings I look to bring, in Rackbank with being the digital bank, but being human when it matters. The other thing I would say is obviously the concept, especially for the Gen Z, is that most of the Gen Zs would never have visited a branch or do not want to visit a branch.
Or written a check, or
Exactly. What is a checkbook? you know,
I think I've lost mine. I don't know.
and obviously in a lot of countries, there's no concept of checkbook any longer. And I think in time to come, maybe we'll also go down that path in the
Hopefully,
UAE.
we're waiting. We're waiting.
Yeah, and which is where, how can banks be part of the buying or the selling journey or the decision journey, where the journey is not starting by, hey, download the app and start transacting, but the journey is starting where I'm a small business marketing on TikTok, or I'm a consumer who's now looking to travel, and I'm looking for the best connections in terms of flights and hotels. And that's where the financial services provider or the fintech, and in our case, we want to be the financial services provider with that superior experience, which otherwise fintech would give as part of that journey. So I think that's the most, I would say, recent experience of not just building the bank, but being embedded in the ecosystems of our partners and in that buying or the selling journey, depending on being the business or the individual, is what we really aim to do.
No, and it's fascinating. Do you see that changing the types of individuals you want to hire, particularly into a relationship management team, right? Where traditionally they would be focused on the finances and bigger trading kind of businesses. If the new wave businesses are coming through, surely you need different kinds of people to serve them.
Absolutely, that's a fantastic question. So I think I would take it in two parts. One is the client base. A lot of the new businesses which are being set up are actually internet only businesses or digital first, and then as they grow, for say in food, it could be a cloud kitchen, and as they scale up, then they have a physical store. Similarly, on the people side, obviously, we need relationship managers who are providing the value added sort of advice when it matters, as opposed to being the first port of call when they have a service request, because that is now delivered digitally in any case. Second, in terms of talent, obviously we want to upskill and train, including myself. And I think all of us, we know that whatever skills which we currently have harnessed and honed, they are going to be irrelevant in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, it's moving so quickly.
Exactly. So that's where embracing AI and also being ahead, in that journey as a learning organization, and bringing the talent, especially on data analytics and applied AI into the business, not just in the engineering world, more specifically on the development side when they're developing new experiences, but also for the relationship manager, that how they could bring that insight to their client through applied AI is what we really aim to kind of embrace. And that's the talent upskilling as well as the new talent which we are looking at to bring in the business bank.
Amazing. A very positive path. So obviously you're fairly new to Rakbank, but you're not new to the region. What is your forecast for the SME market here in the region, and what gives you confidence that it's going to become a thriving and innovative place?
So first, I would go back to the resilience which UAE has shown during COVID times and even prior global financial crisis, etc. So the recovery will happen. It's a matter of when and not if. SMEs are the backbone of UAE, so that secular trend and that contribution is not likely to change anytime soon. The number of new businesses which are getting set up in the UAE and number of new people making UAE their home, maybe there's a temporary blip, but the secular trend, again, we don't see that changing. So in other words, we look at the number of new businesses being set up will continue to kind of, we'll go back to the trend which we saw before the crisis, inshallah, very, very soon. So by 2030, we do estimate at least 1 million SMEs in UAE. We are roughly at about 600 to 650,000 businesses.
And accelerating, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Second is what I would now want to talk about is an SME who is integrated into the UAE ecosystem and the UAE ecosystem becoming more make it in the Emirates. So that's a key theme where the SMEs are not just importing and exporting, but they're actually part of a value chain, say of a large manufacturer where they are importing plastic or packaging materials, also then value adding into that process and then supplying to, say, a large food and beverage manufacturer. On the downstream, again, the SMEs are distributors of these food and beverage products across the 7 Emirates and actually going even beyond the UAE. So I'm fairly confident that the secular trend of the number of new businesses being established in the UAE will continue to increase. That's one. Second, the importance of SMEs in the UAE is going to remain and only increase. And SME sector is the largest employer as well of the workforce, and that will also continue to increase. I want to also talk about the business owner, the owners of these SMEs who call UAE their home. And that's where, as a bank, we not just bank the business, but also the owners and the employees. So that's something we continue to see, and obviously that will continue to grow. So the secular number of the trend of the number of SMEs, but also the individuals who call UAE home, will continue.
And I think that's only expedited in the last 10 years or so, right? There's more, if you look at the data, particularly, and we've got lots of data with our very, very successful Skiply app, right?
Yes.
Parents paying for schools.
Absolutely.
A lot more people are calling the UAE their home.
Yes.
Long may it continue. And I think, this too shall pass. And we're always here for businesses that want to grow as well.
Yes, absolutely. We are open for business. Yeah. In good times and the not so good times as well.
Yes, of course. Vishal, thank you so much for spending time with us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Much appreciated. Thank you.